getting together my reading journal for 2026. It's fun to be back in front of the camera. I'm torn. Hi my friends, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be doing the 2026 bookish reset. Basically what I'm doing today is I am getting ready for a new year, and you know what that means? New books. I have a couple of activities that I want to do. One of them is create my new reading journal for 2026, reorganize my library Notion page because I'm kind of getting sick of the way that it looks, along with doing some reading goals and kind of like figuring out like what reading goals I want for this year. I also want to do some cozy reading as well, and potentially doing a digital like declutter basically, because I am graduating from college and I need to just clear out so many things on my computer that is just like weighing me down. And I'm not too sure which order we are going to do those in, but this video is probably going to take place like for like maybe a couple weeks or so leading up to the beginning of the year pretty much. Oh, and also planning out videos for next year as well too, and figuring out schedules and how I want to do uploading schedules since I have a little bit more freedom to be able to do that essentially. So that is pretty much it. It's fun to be back in front of the camera. I have not picked up this camera in a hot minute and such. This is one of the second times I've picked up this camera in the last like couple of weeks or so, because I've been so busy with finals and trying to make sure that everything gets done as well too. So I'm excited to dive back into it. And yeah, I don't know which activity we're going to do first, but it'll probably pop up somewhere on the screen after the intro clip. And yeah, I will see you guys or like pass you over to whichever activity we do next. Hi again, friends. It's currently a day after me recording me basically getting together my reading journal for 2026. And when I was about to record, I looked at the time and I'm like, I'm going to record that tomorrow. And so here I am recording it right now. So basically what I want to do with this is just kind of like do a little bit of a screen recording and just basically kind of like take you guys through how I decided to set up my reading journal, comparing and contrasting to how I did last year's reading journal, aka 2025's reading journal compared to 2026. So I have reading journal 2026 and I have my 2025 reading journal up as well too as a comparison and such. So for my 2025 one, I just had my first page as my rating system and just kind of like talking about like how I rate these certain books. And one of the changes I made to the new one and such is I added a get to know the reader page. So I have a picture of myself and my beautiful soul dog, puppy doggo, Piper and such, as my name as Samantha parentheses Sam as a nickname, Faith, Samantha Faith specifically. The song that's been on repeat for me for a hot minute is What It Sounds Like from K-pop Demon Hunters. I don't know what that says about me, but I basically have like my favorite movie, TV series, favorite tropes, favorite quote, favorite authors, favorite seasons, and things like that. And then as you scroll down, you see my rating system. And I don't think I told you this, but last year's theme was like a little bit of like a lighter, like purple essentially, and this year is kind of like a tealish, like green blue type of vibe is what I'm going for this year at least and such. So I have my rating system like this, and then this first page I have is books read in 2026. This is pretty much self-explanatory and such. It's kind of similar to my books of 2025. So far I've read 62 books and such. I'm currently in the middle of 2 as I'm recording this as well too, and I have like my book goals and such at the beginning of like what I want my reading goal to be. And then for the next one and such, the next page I have is my 26 books to read in 2026. So I have all of them like labeled out right here, and when I check it off, I basically do a box of like teal around it saying like, hey, I've read this, kind of similar to how I did in 2025. I don't know if you can see it or not, but certain books like Everything I Know About Love and Fahrenheit 451, they have these lavender like boxes around them, basically indicating that like, oh, I've read these. And obviously is nothing on this is read yet because it's not 2026 yet. So if you want to take a look and such at the different books that I have on that list, some of the ones that I'm really kind of intrigued to read on this list is Recursion by Blake Crouch, because I haven't read many science fiction novels, but I want to like get into that genre because I think it could be like fun, essentially. Another one that I'm really curious about is Red Rising, along with Just Friends by Haley Pham as well too. And just basically all of these books that I am intrigued and excited to read about. And then another thing that I took from my 2025 reading journal is the ABC reading challenge. So basically trying to read books with every single letter in the alphabet. I will say that is feasibly impossible, especially for like X and like Z and sometimes V as well too. I think it just kind of depends on that. And so far in my 2025, so the layout of this is just a little bit different compared to like my 2026 to 2025 and such. For my 2025, I have my reading log with like the book title, date, and the rating that I gave it and such. So far at least, there's an empty page right there, but let me get to, yes, this is how I basically just took the exact same design and just put it into my newer one. So it'll look like this, and then it will have the other books and such. And it is currently the 17th as I'm recording this. I'm not too sure. I don't think I'm going to be able to get O, Q, X, Y, or Z even like crossed off this list, but you know, I did pretty good with like many of these stories in my opinion. I didn't do too bad in my opinion, to be honest. We have the ABC challenge right here, and then I have the book bracket and such. So this book bracket thing kind of has a little bit of a story. I'll show you the one from 2025. I decided to try and make a thing of like, what are like my monthly favorites from each month. What are my monthly favorite books? And at first I just had the monthly favorites like this, but I was like, I kind of want to narrow it down to being like, what's the best book, you know? So I decided to create this book bracket and such, and it's the exact same as this one that you're seeing. It looks pretty much identical. You have January, February, March, April, May, June, all of it, and then they go up against each other to reveal the winner from each of the years. Now this is a new page. So I found this on Pinterest. I wanted to add a couple of more things to my reading journal to make it more of me and make it more of my voice specifically. So I found this thing, whereas like basically these 9 boxes that have like things like books that made me, and you have question everything, think deeply, question my beliefs, feeling more open-minded, and just like books that like I'm not really like leaning towards those, but I'm like, it would be interesting to kind of reflect a little bit about like what some of these books kind of reflect on my personality and such. I just found this and I was like, yep, I gotta do that. So, and then I have my series tracker right here. I have a series tracker on here as well too. This is what this one looks like. So I have the name of the series, and then I will probably transfer some of them over to here. And for last year's series tracker, I finished up reading the Crimson Moth duology. Did not get to finish Throne of Glass, unfortunately. I DNF Queen of Shadows, and I don't know if I'm ever going to pick up that series again. I have it on my shelves, but I also have it on my Kindle. So if I do ever decide to read those books again, it'll probably be on my Kindle, and I probably will unhaul the Throne of Glass series and such, because I'm going to say it, I don't like Sarah J. Maas's writing style. Don't come for me. Don't. I see you with your pitchforks. Please don't come for me. We're all allowed to have opinions. Another series that I finished this year was the Ruinous Love trilogy, along with the little novella that Brynn wrote as well too. I did not finish up Kings of Sin for at least this season at least, but that's okay. That's probably going to be moved over. Same with the Inheritance games. I meant to finish that a while back, but I low-key forgot. Skyland, I also want to finish up along with Oxford Romance. Maybe Never After as well too, and also Chestnut Springs. Yeah, that's pretty much it and such for the series tracker. And then the reading log is basically the same that I had for this one, which it looks similar to this pretty much. The only thing I really added was book title and author, and then just kind of fixed up a little bit of the writing to make it more legible pretty much. So I have those reading logs right here. Okay, and now we're getting into the book review section. So the way that I did my book reviews for last year specifically is this is how the page looked. I had the book title in the top right corner along with the author's name. Then I have book, Kindle, or audiobook, and I can check that off. I have a spot to put the cover of the book in the left-hand corner along with the stars underneath. Start, finish, have a little section for the comments, and then recommend, highly recommend, maybe or not recommend. And then I have genres, page count, reviews, and then this square is basically a thing made for collages, pretty much. It is what that looks like. And then I did like it, but there were a couple of flaws that I found, specifically when I was reading nonfictions. It's really hard to find pictures of the nonfiction books because usually it's someone else's life or it is self-help in a way, and I did not feel comfortable with putting photos. I'll use the example of when I read Sherry Frankie's memoir, The House of My Mother. I basically just put a review and then put quotes and such. I'm not going to go through all of this completely and such because it kind of goes through not really spoilers, I would say, but I found having the collages was really kind of difficult in my opinion. Most of these are fiction books and this book specifically that I read for one of my classes and such, I put it in here because I was just might as well, just might as well. But I don't know. It felt weird putting pictures together and you have things like Loveless and such, and that's perfect for these things, and even pumpkin spice as well too. It's just it was weird. It was hard. So I kind of decided when I was doing the spread and such for next year's, I was kind of thinking about the elements that I wanted and the things that I did not want to include. So in turn, we have this page. So some key differences and such is that the title, author, genres, format, page count, start and finish are all kind of aligned with the book cover and such. The book cover is tiny. I made that square tiny because I wanted to use more space for writing and just being able to write down my thoughts and such. And of course, I have the star rating underneath. I have this whole section through here on this side for the whole book review itself. The whole book review can go right through there. And then I have a section for favorite quotes and then comments as well too, because I did like doing the comments aspect. That was fun in case anybody ever wanted to read the journal and was just what should I know to get into this book, essentially, And then instead of having the recommend being highly recommend, maybe not recommend, I just decided to put a simple yes, no, or maybe, and I really was playing with the idea to have a section for collages, but something about it when I was thinking about it, I was I plan on reading a little bit more nonfiction books, and making collages for nonfiction books are just not my specialty, if that makes any sense. It feels weird putting a collage to someone else's story and things like that. So I just decided to abandon that in general. And I like the way that this looks. Like, don't get me wrong, I like that in this one for 2025 that the titles were typed more along with the authors, but I feel like I just want to incorporate more of the writing aspect when it comes to writing the reviews and basically telling about like what format the book was read in, and the stars as well too. And also nonfiction books I don't rate because I don't and such. If you look at The House of My Mother and such, underneath you have start and finish that's a little bit closer, and then the comments are moved up slightly bit. And then when you get to A Killing Cold, the stars are still underneath with like the start and finish underneath the stars along with the comments as well too. I figured that if I wanted to just like get rid of a star, I could just like erase it and it would be fine. And then obviously like whatever and such. So that's what I have so far. And then the way that I don't have to make this every single time. I can go down to like that arrow in the corner and just go duplicate and just have this ready to go. So that is pretty much what my reading journal for 2026 looks like and such. And kind of going back to my original journal and such, something that I'm still debating if I'm going to put in my 2026 reading journal is the DNF graveyard, because I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have too many like hard DNFs this year. I had a lot of soft DNFs, but I don't really count those as like being in the DNF graveyard and such, you know? Specifically the ones that I'm like, I know I'm not going to continue on with these is Our Secret Moments by Janissa Boswell. I tried to read like the first like couple chapters. Nah, I knew I was going to hate it. And then of course Trees by Percival Everett. I read James by him, and I'll tell you a little bit more about my thoughts when I do my tier ranking of my 2025 books, but I read it and I was just like, I can't handle this right now. Like I had to read it for a class technically, but I wasn't in the mood. I couldn't do it. I really could not do it and such. And then of course I tried to read Binding 13. That failed miserably. I only got 19% into it, and I was like, I can't read this anymore. Like, I can't do it. And then, of course, DNFing Throne of Glass with Queen of Shadows and such. So I'm not too sure if I'm going to bring the DNF graveyard into 2026 with me, but maybe we shall see. I don't know. Right now, I'm liking the way it looks and such, and it looks good to me. It looks clean, in my opinion. And one of the things I wanted to do and such was try and have it look more of like a cleaner appearance, because this isn't my first, 2025 isn't my first like official reading journal that I did. I wasn't too sure if I was going to show this, but my journal for 2024 looked like a hot mess and such. Like I still had like the reading logs and like the ABC challenge and such, but the way that like the reviews looked was kind of chaotic and such. I didn't really have like a mode or like thing or whatever of what I wanted to do, and it was just like, it felt odd, it felt weird. I just didn't really like the way that this one looked. So when I changed it in 2025, I was like, okay, this works for now, but now I'm really kind of figuring out what I really like, specifically from the spreads of the different books that I will be reading. But yeah, that's pretty much all I like want to like show you with that and such. And I think, what's the next activity that I have on the docket for this lovely video, since we got the creating the new reading journal out of the way? You guys are probably going to see a little bit of some cozy reading after this and such. But yeah, I think the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do some cozy reading time. Yeah, after that, I will see you guys after the next activity that we do. Hello again, besties. I'm coming back with a reading update to say that I have finally finished reading The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden. You guys literally just saw me finish this, and I'm torn. To be honest with you, I'm very torn on a rating for this specifically. And in order for me to really kind of get in the depths of why I am hesitant with this is I'm going to get into spoilers, but I really don't want to do that. I'm going to try and keep it as vague as possible and such, because I would recommend the first book, which is The Housemaid and such, because this is the second book within the series and such. And I'm very torn. And I'll start out with the things that I liked about this book. I liked the fact that it was very entertaining. When I first read the first book, I wasn't too sure how to feel about Millie as a character. And then as it kept going and going and going, I was like, okay, I actually kind of like Millie. And then the setup for this one was vaguely similar to the one in the first book and such, because this, I believe, takes place 4 years after the original one, I think, but I can't remember off the top of my head. And it starts out very eerily similar to the first book. And in a way, the twist kind of comes in a similar manner of how the first book did. And I'm not going to get into the twist for that one because that one is really fascinating. And I think you should 100% go into that one blind and such. And you kind of get an idea of where the plot twist is going in this one and how exactly it's going to end because of the first one. Even though this one's telling a quote unquote different story, it almost kind of, to me, it doesn't feel copy paste, in my opinion. It feels that she had a little bit of time to potentially develop these characters and specifically develop Millie and a couple of other people that we see from the first one as well too, and just kind of like seeing that specifically, you know, was very fascinating and very interesting to see. But I was listening to the end of the audiobook and I was just like, that's it? Like, that's it? It wasn't a bad thing. And specifically, what the audiobook asked at the end of this one is, were you surprised by the twist? I low-key said straight up no. I thought it was good. I thought the twists were really good, but at the same time, I was not shocked. I kind of figured that was the direction that this was going to go in, and it was fine, you know? Kind of getting into the things that I didn't really like about it is how this kind of felt like the same story but in a different font. I will say Millie is much older. She's a lot more into her craft, I'll say, to say the least. She's much more into her craft and so much more into like her character. We get to see more of her character and a little bit more of her being in the real world and being an actual living human being within Brooklyn and such. But it's just like one of those things where it's just like, or not Brooklyn, it's I think it's in the Bronx actually is where she's mostly at, but in New York pretty much, you know? And it's just one of those things where like, did this need to have a sequel? Technically no, but I did enjoy my time. It's a weird thing. I'm debating if I'm going to continue on with the series because there's a little novella and then the last book, which is The Housemaid is Watching. I have that book already. So I'm kind of tempted to read through it just to see, but I'm also just like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I'm not too sure where I'm standing with this. But actually, after talking about this, I was talking about this with my mom before I was kind of recording because she kind of knows a little bit about like what books I'm reading and such, and just basically telling her the different things. And I was debating between a 3.5 to a 3.75 because the last thriller I read before I picked up this one was a 3-star. I think that was A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I enjoyed this one a lot more than I did the other one, and I gave that one a 3-star. So I think I'm going to settle on a 3.5 for this one. And solid 3.5. I probably will not be thinking about this as much as I'm thinking about the first book, and that is a-okay. And Frida McFadden, she still gets to live on my shelves and such. I just don't know if any of her newer stuff will be for me because this is some of her older work. So she's still on my shelf and she lives another day. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then after this, I think what I'm going to do is I'm either going to start planning out some videos for next year, or maybe take you guys on a time lapse of me editing a video and such, of doing rough cuts for a video and such, because I've been doing this one rough cut that I filmed weeks ago back in like end of November during like Thanksgiving / fall break and such. And I've been meaning to edit that one for a long time, and I need to either get it out either by Sunday or next Sunday, pretty much, or technically this next Sunday or then the next Sunday after that, or I might just scrap the whole video in general. I really don't know off the top of my head, but I'm glad I was able to get this one done. And I don't know if I'm going to pick up any other books this year because, like I said, it's the I don't think I said this yet, but it's the 23rd right now as I'm currently filming this, and the only thing that's really popping out to me is maybe the novella after this, which is like The Housemaid's Wedding, I think is what it's called. I think it follows the events of these and such. And another one that I'm thinking of doing a reread of is Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, because I do want to hit 65 books before I do my tier ranking, but I don't know like when exactly that's going to pop up, if that makes any sense. So I'm not too sure what I'm going to pick up next. Maybe I won't pick up another book, honestly. Maybe this will be my last book that I read in 2025, but we shall see. But I've also have some advanced readers copies as well too, like arcs that I also need to get to as well before, like not really before the start of the year, but well before, like a couple days before the start of the year, pretty much, So yeah, that is pretty much it. I will come back to you guys when I'm probably going through my Notion and such. I don't know. Maybe the video will end here. I have no idea. But if you see more time in the allocated time, then you know that the video is not done with. So yeah, I will see you guys during the next activity that we do in this video.
Hello friends, Editing Sam is back because I realized when I was editing this video, I did not record anything for my Notion template, nor did I even record an outro. So this is acting as the outro. So thank you guys again for coming along with me as I did a reset for 2026. I'm hoping that for reading goals, specifically, I didn't really talk about the reading goals that much, but specifically my reading goals are I want to read 75 books specifically. Yeah, read 75 books. I have my 26 books to read in 2026, along with potentially starting and finishing the Shatter Me series, reading at least 10 to 15 fantasy series. So just like the series is in general, like, because I want to try and get into fantasy more and see what I like with the fantasy genre, because sometimes it could work. And then read 5 historical or literary fictions as well too. Get my physical TBR down to less than 100 books. I have 184 so far, at least. I think it's actually down to 183. I can't remember off the top of my head though. And then of course reread at least 3 favorite series and such. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys again for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you don't know what to comment down below, tell me what your current read is and such. All of my social media is linked in the description down below as well too. Again, thank you guys again for watching, and I hope you guys have an amazing day, week, month, and year. See you later, friends.